Six Nations 2024 opens with a bang as the top two from last year clash in Marseille. My name's Mark. Let's talk rugby. France v Ireland. It's on Friday, 2nd of February 2024. Kickoff is 8 p.m. GMT. It's in the Orange Velodrome, or Stade Velodrome as most people know it, in Marseille, home of Olympique Marseille, famous soccer team or football team in France. Last year between these two, it was Ireland 32, France 19. France, in that game, causing some problems for Ireland, like that try when they just went right up the middle was very special. But in the end, comfortable enough for Ireland, especially looking at kind of the history of this fixture. Like, Ireland don't generally win by that much. And if they win this one, it's not going to be by that much either. But I'm going to have a look at the teams, and then we'll talk about the prospect of, who's actually going to win. So we start with home team France. It's a very strong team that they pick. Front row is by Mauvaka and Antonio. Second row, then they've got Gabriel and Willemse. I know I pronounced the first guy's name wrong. Hopefully I get it after hearing it a million times tomorrow night. Then back row, you got Kroos, Solibon and Aldrit, just dripping class back there. Half backs, you got Lusu and Jalibert. Then in the centres, Dante and Fiku. On the wings, you got Maufana and Pinot. And full back is Ramos. Just quality throughout their team there. Onto the bench, and it doesn't get, it doesn't drop much going onto the bench. Honestly, you got Marchand, Wardy, Aldaheri, Taufi Fanua, Woki, Baudin, Laguerre and Biel Biarri. Like, Biel Biarri, like, in the World Cup just lit up the games that he played in as well. And then, like, we've got Dumortier, who was amazing last year on the wing for them too. And then he lost out in the World Cup because Biel Biarri was an even better talent coming through. So there's going to be such impact from their bench for them as well. So, there's going to be no let up, I think, for Ireland if France are on top in the game. On to the Ireland team then. Front row, and probably most of the team are as expected. So front row, Porter, Sheehan and Furlong. Second row then, McCarthy and Byrne. Back row, newly crowned captain Peter O'Mahony, Van der Fleer and Doris. Half backs, Gibson Park and Crowley. Centres, Aki and Henshaw with Ringrose out. Wings and Lowe and Nash with Mac Hansen out. And then full back, Keenan. Like, it used to be that Rob Kearney was the ever-present at fullback for Ireland. Now it's Keenan. Like, you can't imagine anybody else being in that jersey at the moment. Replacements then, you got, decent bench for Ireland as well. You got Kelleher, Healy, Beelum, Ryan, Baird, Conan, Murray and Frawley. So, decent talent to come on from Ireland as well. And I think both benches are actually going to play a big part in deciding this one, especially obviously if it's close going into the final kind of 10 minutes or so. But let's have a closer look at this French team. So just that front row, like by Mauvaka, Antonio, around the park, By is a huge threat at the breakdown. He's a good carrier. Mauvaka, again, decent in the loose. And, he's also a threat at the breakdown for them too. Have to see how it goes in the line. Antonio is just a huge human being. And he's going to look to carry well for his team as well, get them on the front foot and just kind of suck in those Irish defenders, maybe create space out wide for the pace and the trickery that they have out there as well. In the scrum, it's going to be a huge unit as well for Ireland to go up against. And we know that Porter has had trouble with people like Antonio kind of getting on top of him, and then maybe he doesn't agree with the referee's interpretation, but he's got to adapt on the field, and that could be a big issue for Ireland if a couple of scrums go against them. Can they then change things up and change the referee's mind? Into that second row then, you got Willemse. We all know what he's about and what he gives. He's a real kind of strength there in that second row. And then Gabriel, again, I'm sure I'm mispronounced his name, so apologies for that. But this guy, he plays for Stade Francais. I've seen a little bit of him. He likes to carry close to the line, and he fancies himself getting over from close range as well. Kind of similar to Gavin Coombs, I'd say, in that kind of facet of his game, but he's a decent line-out operator as well. He likes to run in the loose as well, and he's got a bit of pace about him for a second row, kind of similar to Ryan Bird in that respect too. So, him coming in there, even though it may be someone that you haven't heard of before, he's still quality coming in. It's not like just, they're desperate and they're sticking this guy in. This guy is the real deal coming in there. The back row then, like Kroos, Olivon, Aldrit, has been in amazing form the last year or so, and the two guys around him as well, can shine too, and they can win the games. And that back row definitely has the ability to turn a game in France's favour. Onto then halfbacks like Lusu, he's really settled in there. He had to come in during the World Cup when Dupont was out for a bit, so he's not kind of fresh to the role anymore. Obviously, it's a big thing though, stepping up this year now as being the starting nine for hopefully from his point of view the entire tournament, with no Dupont there because he's focusing on the Olympics. And then Jalibert, he's had plenty of time with Ntamack being out before the World Cup last year to kind of cement his place there, because he was, it wasn't kind of written in stone really that he was going to be the starting 10 when Ntamack was out, but his performance just made it clear that he was the man for the job. The wings then, Pinot, we know about him, like the guy's a try scoring machine and so dangerous. Mo Fana, on the wing is kind of interesting. Obviously, he can cover in this, or he can play in the centres as well. So having him out there, we'll see. Like, for my money, he's probably the one that's going to come off for BLBRE in the second half. So we'll see how he goes out there, and maybe that might be a position where France change through the tournament depending on how things are going for them and what they want to kind of develop out there as well. But he's a class operator wherever you play him in the back line really. Centres then, Dante, got that real power there. He's another threat at the breakdown as well. You got Fiku with the silky skills and the pace there too, and then defensively, like they're a really good unit as well. You got Ramos there at the back, solid on the high ball, got a great kick. He's obviously the place kicker as well in the team, and loves to come into the line and offer himself as well as an extra threat going forward. The bench then, Marchand, just absolute quality. Wardy, Aldahiri as well. So, it's not going to get any easier for the Ireland front row when these guys come on, and for the Ireland replacement front row when they have to go against them. Taufi Fanua, quality again coming on in that second row. You got Woki there too, who probably will come on the second row, but you could stick him in the back row too, and he'd do a really good job there. And Bodahen as well there too. So like a 6-2 split for them. Then you got Lagaric, who's probably going to come on for Lusu, I'd imagine. Or otherwise kind of injuries might change that a little bit. And then BLBRE, like to be able to release this guy off the bench against tired legs. You don't want to be caught in a one-on-one against him, because he's going to make a fool of you. So, it really is a very, very frightening French team that they picked. And then, like, onto the Ireland team. So you got front row, you got Porter, Sheehan, Furlong. So Porter, last year, I felt he wasn't in his best form. He is still does have that question mark over scrummaging. Not that he's a bad scrummager, but the fact that teams are finding ways to get him pinged, and then just keeping at that, and he doesn't seem to be able to adapt during the game. And that has to change, and whether that comes from the player himself or maybe being told by Peter O'Mahony or something, or coming messages onto the field about what he's doing wrong. If it does start going against him, that can be important. The last kind of year or so as well, we haven't seen him as being as big of a threat as we're used to at the breakdown. So Ireland will need that breakdown threat from him in this game, I feel, to kind of, slow down that French ball and get crucial turnovers, win crucial penalties, to maybe relieve pressure as well at times. Sheehan, he's an amazing athlete. I do question, though, his throwing into the line-out, and also not just that, just the way Ireland's line-out has gone, and for the provinces, each of the provinces, their line-outs have gone since coming back from the World Cup hasn't been great. And it's not just him; it's almost every Irish hooker, as far as I can see. So that's going to be a big part of his game, is hitting his man in the line-out and just getting those right. And if he does that, then his work around the park, and then just that ability as well as a link player. He's almost like a 7 type player, like kind of in a Martin Williams type role that we used to see for Wales, where just that link player between the backs and forwards. He's able to come into the line and be that kind of player, be a threat, carrying himself as well. And he's got the footwork, he's got the pace, and he has the hands as well to do that role, and that's really great. But we need to see him, in the tight as well, doing his job. Tadhg Furlong, he'd been out for a pretty long time, like after the World Cup. Obviously, everybody had a break, but then his father died, so he'd kind of an extended break for him. And it kind of seemed to have done him well, because he didn't look fit all through the World Cup, and he looked out of form as well. It wasn't just a fitness thing, I don't think. Like, even when he started looking match fit, you could see that he was going for the kind of little extra touches of class, and they weren't coming off all the time, and we weren't seeing kind of the bread and butter from him either. But he's gotten back to that since he's come back into the Leinster team. He does only have a few games under his belt, though. So, if we can get a kind of a good 60 minutes out of him, I think we'd be happy with that. And he's kind of a big key for us as well in terms of locking down that scrum and making sure, that we're not going backwards all evening as well. So that's going to be a tough job for him. So for him, I'm not expecting, kind of the player that we saw a couple of seasons ago that you could say was among the best players in the world, not just the best tight head in the world. I'd just like to see, maybe a more workman-like performance, getting through a good shift of work, like, being busy around the tight, and then doing his job at set piece as well. Then into the second row, you got Joe McCarthy there, who really has kind of come on through his World Cup experience, and we've seen it now with Leinster this year as well. He's kind of growing, he's obviously a growing lad, but he's growing into kind of the expectations, as it were, of being a starting lock for Ireland, and that's good to see. And he gives a good weight and good ballast, but he's also athletic as well. You got Tadhg Byrne there beside him in there too. He hasn't been in great form, but you can see there's signs that he's coming back to that. At Munster, we still have to see him, though, being that real threat at the breakdown. I think that's something that Ireland really missed in that World Cup quarter final, and even earlier in the terms as well. We didn't have as many threats as we normally do at the breakdown. So want to see a little bit more of that from him, maybe win a couple of penalties for us, and, to get us in position. And, that's the kind of thing you want to see from him. It's the kind of thing you want to see when you're away from home, hostile crowd in, it's that stadium. The crowd is going to be much closer to the pitch as well. So kind of quietening down the crowd a bit, or getting the Irish crowd going a little bit, really will be the kind of thing that G's, the whole team up. Then you got Peter O'Mahony, another guy, like, he's the captain now. It's well deserved. I think he was the standout candidate for it. I talked about before in my preview as well. Listen, RFU, Munster sorted the guy's contract. We don't need to be, having that coming up at the moment. So hopefully that does get sorted out. But Peter O'Mahony, he has that breakdown threat. He's great in the loose. Like, the guy he does things that he shouldn't be able to. it's just crazy. And then he's also like a line of option as well, which is really important, I think, in that back row. You got Van der Fleer, who, last year, again, he kind of dipped in form a little bit, especially going into the World Cup. He's starting to get back to decent form. You can see, like, with that, he's getting more involved in the loose and stuff like that, and with his carries, and that's good to see. Doris, again, he kind of had a quiet start to the season, and then suddenly, he was making meters on his carries that he wasn't making before, and, you can see as well that he's started to put a little bit of footwork into his carries. It's not just like straight carries. He's trying to avoid contact, and then when he can't, he's being powerful and driving through it as well. So that's good to see there, and like it's going to be a huge matchup against what is a hugely impressive French pack and back row as well for these guys. Onto the backs then, you got Gibson Park there at 9. For me, he's still the standout 9 in Ireland, and it just makes sense that he's there again with Crowley. That's kind of a combination, I think, that we have to build through the tournament and, in time, like over the next year or so, because these two will be, when they're fit, I think, the starting 9 and 10 for Ireland. Crowley, he's a young guy. We saw, recently maybe a little bit where, maybe his, I wouldn't say temperament, just experience, I think, like against Northampton, where, his team needed to go from their own 22. He tries a little chip like inside his own 22, and that gives Northampton back the ball. Munster don't get the ball back after that, and it's off the field and the game is done. I think if he had that back, he wouldn't have tried to chip, but in fairness, there wasn't much on for him anyway. It looked like, if they were just, if he was passing, he was just shoveling it on, and, Munster weren't going to get out of the 22 anyway. So they needed something. They needed, something like that to come off to maybe break them out. And it didn't work. But, the guy's shown that he does have the temperament for big games, and he is going to need it in this one as well. Going to see how he performs as well when this Ireland pack and team are on the back foot too. I think that's an important part of his kind of learning as well, that it's not always going to be like that we're on top and he has plenty of time. So but he's done that with Munster too. It's just a case of doing it more consistently now at test level, where he's, expectations are going to be much higher this year, and it's going to be one of those where every little mistake is going to be, gone over with like magnifying glass, etc. And maybe how he handles that extra pressure of being the starting 10 rather than kind of the young guy who's like a pretender to the throne. So, but I think he has the temperament for that, and I think he has the ability for that as well. But if it's Packer on the back foot, he's not going to win us the game on his own anyway. So it's all about the pack doing their job and allowing him to show his quality. The centres then, you got Bundy Aki, easily Ireland's best player in the Rugby World Cup, when the guy is winning like Ireland's player of the match pretty much every game. Like you can't pick anybody else ahead of him. You got Henshaw in there next to him as well. No Gary Ringrose there, but these two guys that played obviously a long time together at Connacht as well. I think in terms of just like, it's just that Gary Ringrose just gives you something different in attack that neither of these do. He has that ability. I think he picks maybe better lines and stuff like that. And then defensively as well, kind of a little bit different. Like Ringrose has that license to shoot out of the line. I'm not sure Henshaw is going to get that. Maybe we're going to see a bit more of a flat defence from Ireland and no shooters. We'll have to see. On the wings then, you got James Lowe. Great to see him back. That boot, that long boot that he has, and the fact that he's left-footed kicker as well, really is going to be something important in terms of relieving pressure when France are down, in Ireland's 22 as well. You got Nash on the right wing. I really hope that he does well, because he's a special player, and I want to see him, getting a run in the team and not just being a guy that gets kind of one cap, or not one cap, but one kind of Six Nations go, as it were, and then if things go against him, he's out of the team. Like, that's going to really affect his confidence. So, but he does have to be mindful that he needs to go looking for work as well. He has to come off his wing and go looking for work. We've seen sometimes at Munster where he was sticking out there, and then he just looks a different player when he does come inside. And he's a great player as well for picking decent lines, to just unpick a defence or get you on the front foot. So we need to see a bit more of that. Keenan there at the back, like, we know he's solid on the high ball. We know he is another player that likes to come into the line and offer extra things going forward too. And it's a decent team. It's just whether they're better than this French team is kind of it's debatable. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But then onto the bench, then you got Kelleher there. He's gonna offer us a lot off the bench as well. He is a similar player to Sheehan, but maybe a little bit better in the scrum, and kind of in the tight as well, but still gives you maybe not exactly what Sheehan does in the loose, but still a decent threat in the loose. Cian Healy then, he's so unlucky to miss out on the Rugby World Cup. Real heroics last year, scrumming at hooker, like against Scotland last year as well. Gonna be, great to see him back in an Ireland jersey. Then Finlay Bealham, who I thought was Ireland's best prop last Six Nations. He's maybe not had the best start this season, but he's definitely got the credit in the bank there. But we need to see, when that basic whole front row come on, we need to see them keeping that scrum solid. We can't just have them come on and then suddenly it falls apart. So hopefully those guys are going to be able to do that. Then you got James Ryan coming on. He's going to be a big G up for Ireland, I think, when he comes on. He does so much of that, like, dirty work, that the unseen work as well, around the breakdown, in terms of just making sure that we get that fast ball and then getting in there and disrupting as well on the opposition ball too. Maybe not the sexy stuff that you see from other locks, but all around it, a really good player. Obviously, a good line-out option as well. And then you got Bird there coming on. Bird, he's always been kind of a very kind of dynamic player that gives you a lot on the loose, and he's got try threat. He can make 60-meter breaks. He has the pace to finish from far out as well. But his kind of bread and butter game, that kind of into tight kind of stuff, really has improved this year as well. Got Jack Conan there, who's another great link player in the back row. He's just got amazing hands, and when he comes on and the game's a bit looser, you often see him with decent carry, then a popped offload to somebody that either makes a break or scores a try. So expecting that kind of impact from him as well. Especially if Ireland are kind of going in search of a try kind of late on as well. Conor Murray, he really has kind of reinvented himself. He was way down the pecking order in nines in Ireland, and he's still, I think, behind Casey at Munster at the moment, but at least for Ireland he's there. He's going to do a good job coming off the bench. He's really sped up his game to fit in with the way Ireland like to play as well, because he did have that kind of ponderous style where he, especially if he's going for box kicks. His box kicking is excellent, but they were a bit too slow and maybe let the opposition kind of set up for what was coming. but now he's sped it up. He sped up his pass as well, and it just shows it's a great testament to him as a player that he's willing to make those changes. Obviously, people have he's got a lot of feedback and he's taken that on board and really worked on it. Then you got Kieran Frawley there, 23. He's going to cover much of the back line, and he mightn't get on. Is what I'm thinking. It might just be, for an injury or something that comes. I hope he does get on and gets minutes, because he is another talent. I'd love to see actually potentially himself and Crowley linking up together, because I think the two of those, if you get them on the same wavelength, they really could open up that French defence late on in the game. But yeah, and Ireland as well, just to say they've gone for a 6-2 split, the same as France as well. We don't often see actually 6-2 split from Ireland, so it kind of is a nod to the power that the French have in their pack, that Ireland have done that, and that's kind of a nod to the fact that France are definitely the favourites for this. Ireland, I think, gonna need a really, really special performance if they're to pull this off, especially going down there to Marseille, where again, if things are going against you, I think with a crowd like that so close to the pitch, it really will get to the players. It doesn't matter how many caps you have, when things are going against you and you can't find a dig out, you need someone to step up and bring those moments that just lift you and lift the Irish crowd as well. I think that's what, if an Irish victory does come, that's what it's going to be built on. It's going to be built on those moments where we get a turnover, or somebody smashes someone in a tackle, or we win a penalty at the scrum, or we hold French players up over the line, or wherever it is. Those are the moments that are going to allow us to win the game. If we don't win those moments, and if we don't start well, it's going to be a tough evening for us, because France, rightly the favourites, if they get the noses in front, and I think it's going to be a case of almost like Ireland coming a little bit back at them, and then France pulling away again, and then Ireland coming back again, and France going away in the end. So Ireland, I think, for a game like this, it's going to be very hard for them to come back from behind, especially in the last kind of quarter. So I think, Ireland will have to be very close or ahead going into that final quarter, and that's kind of where they want to be. France, obviously, they'll want to try and break Ireland early. I think that they are going to go for a fast start. Obviously, Ireland, we've seen, are traditionally fast starters themselves in terms of games, but not necessarily for this tournament. They kind of the first game, they kind of build their way into it, but that first kind of 20 minutes or so could be crucial in terms of just setting out the the tempo and the kind of the starting the story off for the rest of the game. If Ireland have a little bit of a lead and they're making France chase them, that's going to obviously be a lot better for Ireland, and vice versa as well. But I think this is going to be an epic game, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let me know, who do you think is going to win?